Welcome back. Glad to have you back on the show. Mary Ellen, this word that came out of Washington called sequester sounds to me like taking a nap, but it's really not.
Siesta, huh?
It's the biggest word around now. It has to do with budget cutting in Washington, but apparently it could have a major impact on all the states through cuts in local programs, state programs, and it could have a major political impact in states and so forth. What's your read on all of that as we are in the 2013 session? This could have a major impact. How's it going to play out in your view?
Well, I think it depends on how long the sequester lasts, number one, and also where people, average people, are going to see it in their lives. I think the places to watch are going to be airports, where people are going to wait in line longer, where planes can't take off because we haven't had the security of the X-ray cargo, and same at ports and cruise ships. So there are places in Florida where the average person is going to get affected. The other obvious place is in the military, and everybody, all the dependent industries that rely on military to have spending money, if those folks are all on furlough, there will be a huge ripple effect. And Florida will be one of the bearers of a heavy burden then. But no one knows how long this will last. I mean, they're going to be meeting, and will they come up with something that just says, all right, we've got a short-term solution, it's a stopgap, but we'll see you in June. So, you know, it's uncertain. The bottom line, however, is that Washington is going to continue to look bad.
Now that seems amazing with the problem, Steve, that we really have. Marilyn just said probably something's going to happen, but if I heard you correctly, the can is going to be kicked down the road, and some of the fundamental decisions will not be made yet for a while. How long can that last, and what are the political impacts?
The political impacts are bad all the way around, I think, but I think they're worse on Congress than they are on President Obama. Congress's approval rating was close to, if not in single digits, even before the sequestration began to unravel. Now, President Obama's not going to get away blame-free. He'll get some collateral damage from this. He's being accused of using scare tactics, of releasing illegal immigrants, things like that, which Republicans say is just designed to scare people. But it looks like more gridlock. It looks like more hyper-partisanship in Washington, the very stuff that people are sick of.
Well, David, do you buy into the fact that, or the alleged fact, whatever, that an $85 billion cut in the federal budget is going to wreak havoc as it is being declared to will do?
It's actually a pretty small percentage. You know, in the big picture, it's far less than 1% of the economy, and you know, I think, as Mary Ellen said, though, it will be felt more in some places than others, and Florida is certainly at the top, along with, you know, Virginia and Pennsylvania and a couple of other places. Florida is certainly one of the top places where it will be felt. But I don't think that, you know, it's going to devastate the economy. I think that's, you know, sort of built into the rhetoric to try to get a deal. But I don't think that's going to, you know, throw us back into recession.
Brent,
but again, it also depends on how long it lasts.
Brent,
I also don't think it's grabbed the attention of the American public to the same extent as even the fiscal cliff. And I think part of that, and it's too bad to see this in our democracy acting like it is, I think so many people in this country just figure out that the people in Washington can't do anything right. And that's in part answers Steve's question. I think why does Congress have a 9% approval? I'll bet cockroaches have a. No, I mean I don't even mean that in a humorous way. Almost nothing. Yeah, but you know, nothing has. And the other thing is, what in the world, we try to sell democracy worldwide? What do the other people in other nations on this planet think, watching how the U.S. operates? And it's amazing to watch this stuff. It's unbelievable in a lot of ways that we can't make progress in any areas. And the military is one area, maybe the biggest asset we have in this nation. But at the same time, if there's not room to make cuts in that budget, you know, at the Pentagon alone, you could go through, I would think, and save billions of dollars. But Why doesn't any of it happen? It's got to be, people that are paying attention have just got to be dismayed.
You know, Steve, House Speaker John Boehner is known for, he loves to come to Florida to play golf. He's he goes to that Ritz-Carlton hotel in Naples. It'd be poetic justice if he landed at the airport in Fort Myers and there was nobody there to handle his luggage.
My goodness. Okay.
You asked the question, sorry.
I know. Brent used the word unbelievable. David, what some people find unbelievable is that our governor, Rick Scott, totally changed his position on Obamacare when he's agreed now to the expansion of Medicaid under the Federal Health Care Act. He's agreed to at least cooperate for 3 years and accept that federal money, and there's been quite a reaction to that.
When Charlie Crist, who flipped parties, calls you a flip-flopper, you've made a huge change, and you're right, it is amazing. Governor Scott ran on an anti-Obamacare platform, ran an organization against the Obamacare idea, and here he is saying that the principal way in which Obamacare will be carried out, which is optional in the states, that Florida will go along with it. It's a massive expansion of Medicaid. I think it was a pragmatic decision in some ways. You know, Florida is going to have an uninsured problem, and if the federal government is willing to pick up the cost for at least the first 3 years, 100% of the cost, I kind of take Scott at his word that he looked at the situation like, well, people around the rest of the country are going to benefit from the fact that, the federal government is going to pick up the cost of expanding Medicaid and getting several more people insured. Why shouldn't we go along with it? However, I think it's pretty clear that it was a political trade, a horse trade. Florida also, sort of separately, is changing the way it delivers Medicaid. It is changing. There's been a pilot program in a couple of counties to sort of put managed care, Medicaid, into a managed care system using private HMOs. That is going statewide, and on the same day that Governor Scott announced that he would go along with expanding Medicaid, the federal government announced that just a few hours earlier that Florida will be allowed to take statewide this managed care system. Some call it privatization of Medicaid, something Governor Scott has pushed and pushed and pushed for. And I think it's pretty clear that U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Kathleen Sebelius at some point said to Governor Scott, and they met in person not that long ago, I think she probably said, you can have the waiver for, to allow you to do this managed care experiment in your state with your Medicaid enrollees, but you're going to have to go along with this expansion of Medicaid. I would also say that, Governor Scott is not the only Republican governor who has agreed to do this. There have been others, and some pretty, John Kasich in Ohio is no moderate. But I think if you look at the states where those governors are, Florida, Ohio, New Mexico, most of them have something in common, and that is that they're pretty purple states. I think somebody probably mentioned to Governor Scott that there are a lot of people who he is going to want to vote for him in the next election who like Obamacare and who like the idea that a lot more people would be insured if they would just go along with this. So I think there was a political calculation as well.
Steve, let's move now to the relationship between Governor Scott and the legislature and some big issues, and we'll move on into the legislature in the second segment. Governor Scott has not just surprised people on Obamacare. He's recommended a $74 billion budget, $4 billion more than last year. He's talking about across-the-board pay increases for teachers, bonuses for state employees, and, well, I'll let you talk about what the reactions have been to that among Republican legislators and leaders.
Well, the reaction's been fairly muted. I mean, they've been polite in public, but from everything we hear, the real problem that Rick Scott's likely to have is with the young House Speaker, Will Weatherford. Will Weatherford, I would argue, is a little more conservative than Senate President Don Gates. And there's going to be a challenge here. Rick Scott basically gave them a 6-8 hour heads up before he announced the across-the-board teacher pay increase. And is in effect thrown the legislature under the bus here, because now he's put the legislature in the position of having to say no to teachers, something no politician wants to do. That's a lot of money, $500 million for a pay raise for teachers. And I've had Republicans tell me you could give every teacher in the state a $25 million across the board pay raise. They're still not going to vote for Rick Scott in 2014. I mean, teachers are of all political persuasions, but teachers, by and large, are more Democratic than Republican, and they belong, many of them belong to one of the most biggest unions associated with liberal democratic politics, the Florida Education Association. So he's got problems. And one last point, this is an amazingly narrow agenda that Rick Scott is coming to the legislature with. He wants two things and only two things. He wouldn't even list Medicaid expansion as one of the things he wants. He wants the teacher pay raise, and he wants a fairly modest sales tax break for manufacturers who buy new equipment. They have to justify that the added business would grow from the tax break. They wouldn't have to provide that justification anymore. So it's going to be a little bit tense. Again, this is a pivotal year for Rick Scott. It's a kind of a make or break moment for the guy, because next year he's going to be fully involved in running for re-election.
All right,
Governor Scott threw them under the...
have to cut off.
All right.
All right, we'll come back, though,
All right.
and talk about this after the break.